So one of the most hyped fragrances, in my opinion, that I've seen is Mancera Cedrat Boise. And I have it here in my hand finally. And I want to tell you everything about this fragrance, and also the things that people talk about a lot, specifically, the similarity to Aventus, and tell you whether this fragrance is worth it. But let's start with actually my rating, right? Just so you know where I'm headed with this, and sort of my opinion up front. My rating for this fragrance would be overall a 9 out of 10, right? So very, very solid rating, but not quite a 10 out of 10. And we'll get more into that. So let's first address the elephant in the room, right? The similarity to Aventus. Does this really remind you of Aventus, and does it really smell similar? You know that, I am not a proponent of buying fragrances in order to smell like something else, but it's important to know, for me, it's important to know whether something smells similar, because I don't want to make a redundant purchase and I want something more unique and more creative. So, when I first opened this up, right, if I smell it from the nozzle and also when I sprayed it in the box, right now too, as I open the cap off, and by the way, this is a screw-on cap, which is very interesting. I like it. It's secure. The sprayer is not the best. It's sort of like there's not much distance that you can push it. But anyway, there's a strong similarity, an uncanny similarity to the fruity opening of Aventus. When I smell it off the nozzle and when I sprayed it initially into the box that it came in, I thought, oh shoot, this is pretty close to Aventus, and I'm not the biggest fan of Aventus. I mean, it's great, but it's not spectacular in my opinion. It's not mind-blowingly unique. So I thought, shit, I'm gonna be disappointed, right? But actually, very quickly, that initial similarity, especially on the skin, changes, and very quickly this heads in a very different direction. And so I think, let me give it a spray, right? Oof. Actually, the sprayer, I don't like the fact that it doesn't push in much, but it really, sprays a long distance, like a laser, right? Yeah, whew, that's nice. That is nice. Yeah, I mean, it's a 9 out of 10, right? But anyway, it will remind you of Aventus, but as it dries, like very quickly, within minutes, you'll realize it's different. And for me, what I noticed was very different was there's a strong, actually, the leather note was much more detectable than I thought. I knew there was a hint of leather in here, but it's not like an offensive leather. Generally I think leather's not the note that most people, especially women, tend to be drawn towards. But here it's like the leather gives it like a bit of a dryness, and also kind of almost like an animal hide, right? Like a little more masculine, and it just sits like under all the citrus, right? So that this is not such a like glassy, clean kind of citrus smell. And that, I think, adds to sort of the creamy quality, even though a lot of the creaminess also is coming from woods in here too. But the opening, I heard one person, I think Sebastian, sort of said this is more like the fruity, or a lot of people actually say this is like the more fruity version, similar to fruity versions of Aventus. And I see what they mean. It doesn't have that smoky component, but the difference is not really, to me, only a matter of the fruitiness. There are many other differences here, in particular the leather. Yeah, so Cedrat Boise has a bit more leathery, and so a bit creamier, and it's also a little bit sweeter, and also has more of a floral touch as well. And I think all of that together, I did say the leather gives it a masculine quality, but overall, I think this is more unisex than Aventus. And it might be because of that lack of smokiness, but I think that it has to do more with the sweetness and the creaminess. And I would say, the big question is, is this better or is Aventus better? And the reason I picked this fragrance up in the first place is because I heard everybody on YouTube say that this is their preferred fragrance over Aventus. They're saying, oh, Aventus is great, but this is just a slightly better at a fraction of the cost, right? And so, I thought, man, like if you can get something better than Aventus for just under $100, then this has got to be really the best fragrance out there, right? And it almost is, but it's not really perfect in my opinion. I would actually say, Aventus, listen to this, Aventus is the better cologne in terms of composition, in terms of quality of the ingredients. And especially if you're looking for an everyday cologne, right? In terms of versatility, I think it is better because, I'm not saying it's worth the $400, but Aventus is a crisper scent. That's one of the biggest differences between this and that. Aventus, I think, works even better in the summer. It's just so much cleaner, office friendly. This, yes, can be worn in the office, but it's a little more, because of the sweetness, it's a little more playful. And again, more unisex, right? But if you're looking for that crisp kind of cologne, right, that's going to work everywhere, Aventus is, I think, also better for it's more crowd pleasing in general. And, it packs that kind of punch that this one doesn't really have. And again, remember that I'm not even the biggest fan of Aventus or Aventus-like scents, right? I actually prefer more like a little bit more older and more mature smelling, classy types of scents, usually with the base of vetiver, rather than like a fruity smell. So that's my sort of taste, and I still think Aventus is, if they cost the same, I would probably buy Creed Aventus over this one. But the fact is that they don't cost the same, right? And the price is actually dramatically different. So Cedrat Boise, I got this. I think the best place to get this is Fragrance USA. It's interesting. You can get this for at Fragrance X or Fragrance Net for $112 to $115, and this is the 120 ml. But at Fragrance USA, you can get the tester version, which comes with the cap and a sleeve as well, but it just lacks the branded box. And the tester version cost $90 or $80, but you can also get 10% off, and a lot of people have discount codes for that you can look up. And so even with tax, it's a total of $80, right? Which is amazing, right? You're getting 120 mLs of sort of niche, quality fragrance for under $100, and that's unheard of. The next sort of related point is, about this being a niche fragrance, right? Sort of, it's introduced as one of the best kind of entry-level niche fragrances and a good way to get into niche, and that's true, right? But I think that also raised my expectations, right? I love, niche fragrances in general. I think this quality is just so much better if you can afford it. I also love cheapies, by the way, but this one, in terms of quality, right? Is it on par with Aventus? Is it better? Is it worse? I would say it's actually, I said Aventus is a better cologne. This one is not quite 100% as good as Creed's quality. And look, I mean, it's obvious, right? I never say Creed is sort of worth the $400, and especially, people can't detect that difference between a $200 and $400 fragrance, but here I think the quality is sort of in between something like Bleu de Chanel, right? So Chanel's among designers smells better, right? Between that and niche things like Creed, I don't think it smells as natural, as pure as the things that are used in Creed's fragrances, and yet it is better than your designer fragrances. That could just even be like not even a difference in ingredients, but just how well everything is composed, right? So who knows? But my opinion is that it's not. The quality of this $100 fragrance is not the same as that of a $300+ fragrance. Especially comparing it to something like also Raja Parfum, which is, I think, just the best sort of house. Best, he's one of the best, my favorite perfumers, because his compositions are so unique and so complex. This doesn't have that, right? It's a relatively simple composition. Now remember, again, go back to what I said at the beginning. This is a 9 out of 10 fragrance. I'm not, hating on it at all. And actually, there are some advantages of this fragrance, I think, over Aventus, and certain people will like this more. And testament to that is actually several YouTubers say this is better than Aventus for them. In some ways, this is more interesting because initially I wasn't impressed, like especially smelling like this, but as it dries down, it has it's almost like, okay, so we're getting a little bit more into the details of the smell, but it's like, to me, it reminds me a little of the creaminess in Dunhill Icon and the complexity there, taking out sort of like the difference in quality, right? The creaminess there, along with the slight leather quality of Bentley Men Intense, and then the fruitiness of Aventus, right? It's a weird mix, but it just works so well. And whereas Aventus is just clean and doesn't really remind me of any sort of like any images in particular, this one creates an imagery, and this one reminds me of a tropical rainforest. And that's because there is, with the leather and the dryness that I described, a slight like mossiness as well, and earthiness. Definitely not prominent, but it's there to balance out the sweetness and that juicy fruit, right? With the the creamy fruit, right? Along with sort of like refreshing florals, right? In the mixed in as well. All of that is like blended together, and you can't really pick out individual notes, but you can tell that the essence of those kind of notes are there. And that's essentially like a rainforest to me, right? There's moisture, right? There's greenness and freshness, right? It's an airiness, right? An airiness that's there, but it's a densely packed forest with like and a ton of soil, right? And it's grounded at the same time, and that's what this is like, right? Like it has more of a tropical quality than Aventus's fruity notes, and I think that's what makes this one a bit different, right? And appealing. I could smell it in the air too, and it's just, yeah, this is more like a vacation fragrance. This is more tropical, and I think if you like that, if that sounds appealing to you, then you're gonna like this more than Aventus, which is a bit more professional, a bit more refined, yes, and just crisp, right? That's probably the biggest difference that I could tell between these. Yeah, and in terms of really summarizing the smell, the best way I can put it is this is kind of like a lemon cream soda, right? I don't even know if there's a lemon flavored cream soda, but like that cream soda has a little bit of an effervescence because of the soda, right? But it has a creamy flavor, sweetness, right? So it's like a lemon cream soda or a lemon creamsicle, and that's really the best way I can put it, right? I will say, that sort of description would worry me because it sounds like, and I thought that this fragrance would be more youthful, and I that's not really appealing to me. But actually, it's not so youthful as I thought. It's not. It can work for all ages, but it has a sophisticated quality about it that makes it work totally well for anyone of any age, right? 30s, 40s even. And so I think this is a really awesome fragrance. Right, so the big question is this fragrance worth it? And is this a must-have in your collection? Definitely, right? Think of the smell, the quality, the uniqueness, the mass appeal, and the price. You put that all together, and this is a must-have, right? In anyone's collection. There's no better value than this, right? And you're getting a very good quality juice. Now, is this overhyped? Yes, I think it's also overhyped, right? It deserves all the credit, but I don't think that I do think that it is overhyped, right? And so your expectations, if you watch too many YouTube videos of this, might be a bit too high. At least it was for me, right? So it's a slightly overhyped fragrance, but still a must-have, if that makes sense. I'll say, like, sometimes fragrances, you know, I have a certain expectation, right, of everything that I buy, and I usually blind buy. So, you know, if some fragrances just blow me away, this one didn't blow me away because I had such high expectations. But it definitely satisfies me. It definitely is worth the money. And if I had to do it over again, I would still buy it, right? It's just that it is overhyped. So anyway, solid 9 out of 10 fragrance. What do you guys think of Mancera Cedrat Boise? Also, is there a better value sort of niche fragrance out there? Let me know, okay? And I'll see you next time.